All right, this is our second go at this. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 57. I am here with Scott, with one T, from the Bald Booktuber. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, things are good, man. Had some good lunch with my wife at a Japanese place we like, and yeah, just pretty chill day. Off day from work, so no complaints here. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Internet problems aside, I got a haircut today. I had a
Hey, all right.
discussion with AR Witham before this one.
AR's great. Andy is a good
Um,
dude.
yeah, that was a great chat. Hopefully
Yep.
this one will be a really good chat too. No
Hope
pressure,
so.
of course. But seriously though, how are you doing today? Sounds like you're having a good day.
Yeah, things are good. I'm reading Larry Correa's what is it? The Saga of the Forgotten Warrior series.
Mm.
So, Son of the Black Sword is the first book. I'm about 70% in, I guess. Got about 150 pages to go, and quite enjoying it a lot. My friends Brent and Madison over on Mike's channel have been trying to get me to read it for years, and finally I buckled down. Mike actually just read it as well and quite enjoyed it. So really good. Sort of in a, I guess you'd call it a post-theistic type of setting where kind of religion is a thing of the past and nobody really believes in gods or anything anymore. And kind of the main character that we follow has this sentient sword that's
Of
like an
course.
ancestral sword. No, the sword is the coolest thing about the whole deal, and so it remembers all the battles of like all the lineage of this line. So basically, the bearer is, uh, for all intents and purposes, basically unstoppable. And yeah, it kind of goes from there. But I'm liking it a lot. It's really good. It's my first Korea, and he's quite good at the fight scenes, and I'm enjoying what I'm reading.
Yeah, I've heard he's good. I know he's sort of garnered some controversy the last couple years, but I won't go into that. I heard he's solid though. It seems that people are liking him on the internet, so I mean, that's I guess that's a good thing.
I'll say if for people that really care about how someone votes, half of them will like Correa and half of them will not. I fall in the camp that I don't care how people vote, so it
Fair
doesn't matter
enough.
to me what his politics are.
Fair
So
enough. I mean, they usually don't bother me too much. I mean, there are people I disagree with politically who I
sure,
read. Like China
sure,
Mieville, for instance. I really enjoy his work, even though
hmm
our politics are very opposite.
yeah,
So I'm not against it. But
yeah, for sure,
I know he's gotten some flack over it. What it is what it is on that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I know you're a friend of Mike's, or well, friend,
I mean, we're digital friends. We
digital
talk
friends.
frequently. We've never met in real life, but sort of happened upon his channel back in March of 2020,
Mm.
right at the heart of the pandemic. And I really didn't watch a lot of YouTube prior to that, and that's what got me into BookTube. It's what got me back reading again. So I had like I've always been someone that binges a lot, and then I'll go through periods where I don't read anything. And
I know what you
basically,
mean.
since
I'm the same
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Though
Since I started
recently,
watching his channel, it's just been, not many breaks. Last
no,
year I hit a bit of a skid, but otherwise I read every day, which is nice.
I know what you mean. I'm the same way. I'll just pig out on books, and then after I'll just
hmm
be like, all right, I'm gonna take a break. At the moment, I've been keeping up pretty consistently with books. Well,
Yeah.
not like any that have recently come out, of course. I mean, I'm not that crazy, but I try to keep a consistency going with my reading as well as
Yeah,
my
it can be
channel.
tough. I like to get up early in the morning. I get my hour or two of reading in a day to make sure that I get reading in every day.
Mm.
If I didn't do that, then I probably, when if and when I don't do that, I don't get reading in as consistently as I would like or as I should.
Well, like I mentioned in our last rather abortive conversation, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
um, you're a fan of you're a fan of several series,
hmm
including Book of the New Sun, which is
hmm
a series I wanted to try for a while. I haven't gotten around to it. I have read Jane Wolfe, and as a matter of fact, I read The Land Across a few years ago.
Okay.
I didn't really care for it, but apparently it's not very well known. So
Is it
but
a what is it? A novella or short story or
oh no, it's a novel. It's about
okay standalone?
yeah.
Okay,
It's basically
fair enough.
it's basically this guy. He's in Eastern Europe and he gets some wacky misadventures.
Okay.
I remember there's a muddy hand involved. I remember that for some reason, but the rest of it I can't remember. Um, but
Sci-fi or what's the genre?
I don't know, like magical realism maybe.
Okay, fair enough.
Like I don't really like that term, but that's the best I can come up with.
Okay.
I also like I did get his The Wizard Knight, which I might
Yeah.
read with Liam and T at some point. Don't know when
Oh,
I'm gonna
cool.
do that, but don't know when they're gonna do that anyway. So I'm just kind of up in the air about that. But
Hmm.
I've wanted to try Book of the New Sun for a while because it's one of the classics. It's kind of like Ursula K. Le Guin. It's always someone I've
Hmm.
wanted to try.
Sure.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess I already have tried, but I want to try that series, and I guess that's a good way to put it.
It's very weird. If you are into a lot of classical liter, like you're probably better read than I am in
Mm.
classical literature and mythology and this kind of stuff. So a lot of it you'll get more than I did. So I invited Christopher Rocchio, one of my favorite authors of Sun Eater, on my channel. It's his favorite series, and
They're
we
like
went through
boom.
each book. So Dune is sort of 1A, 1B type of situation,
Mm.
but um, so he went on Boyd's channel, Media Death Cult, and he gave his top 10 sci-fi, and that was number one on that. And then, or I'm sorry, number one or number two, I can't remember. And then he went on my channel, and I think he put it number one or number two with that or Lord of the Rings when he talked about his top 10 fantasies. So, you know, kind of stack ranked, it is very, very high for him.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
if I remember right, I know a lot of people kind of consider. I've had some friends who've considered Book of the New Sun fantasy. I've heard people consider it science fiction. I've heard people say science fantasy, and I don't know.
Yeah, science fantasy is probably the right term, and it's also, I think, the right term for what Rockio's doing with his series in Sun Eater. There
Mm.
are a lot of echoes, especially in the later books, of kind of what goes on in New Sun. So I'm happy to have read it because it makes me appreciate Sun Eater even more, which is a good thing. But Christopher, so his background is he's got a classics degree, so he's extremely well read when it comes to a lot of that kind of stuff, and so he gets a lot of the allusions and kind of stuff that just would have flown right over my head, and
Yeah,
was
he's
able to explain a lot of it to me.
you
Very
know
smart
he's
guy.
he's one of those guys I would love to talk to at some point. I don't know if I would
Yeah.
like Sun Eater. I mean, again, don't want to knock something until I try it, but I don't know if I would like the series. I mean, I'm not sure about it yet. Maybe I'll try it at some point. But I would really love to have a conversation with him at some point. I think that would be a
So
really interesting chat. I don't know.
I'm curious. What's your? He'll talk to you. If you reach out to him, he'll talk to you. I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but he's been on a lot of different channels.
Yeah, I know. I
Um,
mean, I've seen him talk on like my friend Jordan from iWizards
mhm.
talked to
Yep.
him, and
Jordan's great. Yep.
my friend Liam from Liam's Lyceum
Yep.
is talked to him. I mean, of course, Mike has talked to him, and they've become quite friendly. I
Yeah.
think
All
you've
good.
talked to him as well.
Several times. Yeah. All big Sun Eater fans as well. What's your hesitation? Why do you think you might not like it? I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's probably just me being a sourpuss about it. I'll probably try it at some point, but it's just I'll put it this way. I don't. I mean, I want to read it at some point. I'm just kind of not right now. I guess is good. Is a good way to
Oh,
put
that's
it.
fair.
Just
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to read. That's fine.
though,
I
like,
thought you were saying you might not like it because of something that you thought was in there,
oh
or
no,
something, a
it's
story element that was not going to work for you, or something like that.
no. I mean, I could get really neurotic about the genre, but that's not really gonna help much. that's
No,
a that's
probably
a
not.
whole other level of nerddom I don't want to go into right now.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, it's definitely one I would like to check out at some point.
Hmm.
Um Apparently, Book of the New Sun and Sun Eater both have an unreliable narrator. So we'll see how that goes.
You can sort of call it that. Yeah, it's one of the things that is similar between the two. So I don't know if you've read Robin Hobb at all, my favorite author, but
She's another one I haven't tried yet. Maybe someday.
I love Robin Hobb. So throughout some of her series, there is first person retrospective,
Mm.
which also is utilized by Rothfuss and Name of the Wind, which is something else that I love. I love first person retrospective.
I hear you.
Just
Have you
something
read
that I
Have
really,
you read The
really
Great
love.
Gatsby?
In high school, it's been too long, so
Oh,
I'll probably check it out again. I know it's
oh.
from the viewpoint of Nick, and that's about all I remember about it. I don't remember anything about that story other than that. High school was a long time ago for this old man.
Yeah, I
Uh,
hear you.
I'll check it out again at some point. But yeah, it's my kind of tale where you got kind of the grizzled old person. It doesn't have to be a male, but all these
A
series
lot
that
of
we're
it,
talking
a
about
lot of
are.
them are male. I
Uh,
hear you. I hear you.
so going back over their life and thinking through all the way to childhood, all the way up to the present day. Like I like that kind of storytelling. So by its nature, it tends to lend itself to some aspects of unreliable narrator, and both Sun Eater and Book of the New Sun do unique things with kind of that method that I won't go into for spoiler reasons.
Yeah, I have a friend named Tig who read the first Sun Eater. He didn't care for it, but then he went to go read the second one. I'm like, why did you read the second one? He's like, the hook for the
So
first one was really good. At the end, I'm like, oh man, you're killing me right
yeah,
now.
so
No,
in
but
many ways, like I love Empire of Silence. It is my least favorite of the series. That's the first one. It's my least favorite of the series, but I appreciate it more every time I read it. And you can tell that there are things in there where he didn't have the process down just yet. So, and he'll
mm,
tell you that too. So it was before he started outlining, before he started planning out, in detail these kinds of things. So there's a little bit of meandering and stuff going on, which I don't personally mind. You
I mean,
can't
I
be a
don't
Robin
mind it
Hobb fan
either.
and
I
mind
mean,
meandering, but um, so that turns a lot of people off. But it's almost an entirely different thing from Howling Dark forward. Um, so there are people on the opposite side of the coin that love Empire of Silence, and then their appreciation and kind of enjoyment of the series goes down. For me, it's straight up, and
mm,
that's really more of the sentiment among the people that I talk to. Again, the people that I talk to are mega fans of the series, like I am, so
mm,
there's bias there, but um,
I mean, everyone's biased.
it's true. But it is the type of series where even if someone didn't 100% love the first book, if they like your friend did, said there's a hook here or there's something to keep me reading, I would encourage them to do so, because Howling Dark is almost an entirely different deal. It feels I, like you could tell he matured a lot as a writer between book one and book two, and it's just the writing keeps getting better. He's got some of the most beautiful prose I've ever read. I say all this and I consider him a friend, so like again, bias creeping through, but um,
Oh man, yeah,
it is what it is.
I've met a few writers in my. Oh, hello, Kitty. Kitty's striking back again. Yeah, she was in here earlier when we were talking. Um,
What I
yeah.
tell most people is if you like one of the following, you should at least try the series. If you like one of Star Wars, and I don't care what Star Wars it is, but if you like anything in the Star Wars world, if you like
I
Gladiator,
saw
or
recently.
if
That's funny you
or if you
mentioned
like
that. Sorry, I didn't
what's
mean
that?
to interrupt you. Yeah, finish your thought.
No, you're cool. So anything Star Wars related, anything Gladiator related, or anything Greek and Roman kind of ancient history, mythology, that kind of stuff. If you're into any of that stuff, you owe it to yourself to at least try the series.
Um, I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, one of my favorite books. Just pull it out. I actually just covered it on my channel recently. It's Lolita, very infamously unreliable narrator. So I don't mind that. So,
Yeah. I have never read Lolita. It feels like a weird thing to read.
No, I mean,
like
I don't blame people who don't want to read it or think it's disgusting or think it's vile, because I mean, it is those things. But I mean, if you do
yeah.
read it, it's quite a trip. It. I don't know if I want to say I enjoyed reading a
No,
book about
I get it.
that file, but you know,
Yeah, I get it.
but you know, it's a very engaging read if you know. Then again, I read it when I was younger, so
Hmm.
so you know, there's kind of that impact, you know. I guess bias, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, I like a lot of noir fiction because you know, there's
Hmm.
that first person. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
read a lot of crime fiction, but there's a lot of first person narration in that.
Not a ton. So we're actually going through on Mike's server right now, and we're doing a kind of a crime or thriller book a month.
Mm.
That's being led by my friend Brent. He knows more about the thriller genre than anybody I know. So he loves all kinds of stuff. Like he reads fantasy, sci-fi, but when it comes to thrillers, he's read everybody for the most part. And so we read a Bosch novel, Concrete Blonde,
I've
in
heard that's good.
January. It was good.
Or well,
Yeah,
I've
it
heard
was
the
really good.
Bosch series is good.
Yeah, it's supposed to be consistently good. There's 25 books or whatever, so it'll be a while before I get to all of them. But this was like book 2 or 3 in that series. Very, very good. And then we read a Clancy in February. We read Hunt for Red October, which I'd never read before and quite enjoyed. And then next month we're going to be doing a Vince Flynn novel.
Ah, yes,
And
I remember him. Yeah, he passed
Transfer
away.
of Power, I think. Yeah, Transfer of Power. So,
I see his
um,
books in local bookshops, or well, people writing as him. I hate when people
yeah,
do that shit.
yeah, we got that for Clancy and for him and for others.
Crichton.
Keeping the thing going. Yeah. Um, so I don't know.
I'm
I'm enjoying it quite a bit. It breaks up the month pretty well because my other big thing I'm doing right now is I'm going through and reading all the Stephen King and getting all caught up on that. So
yeah,
I
King's
need things
one
to
of my
break it up.
favorites. I enjoy him a lot.
Hmm.
Um,
Same.
I'm sure he's 1922 is a first person story. I'm sure he's done
Yeah, I haven't.
others. I can't quite.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess you could consider 11/22/63 sort of a.
Oh yeah. That's right. That's right.
That's one of my favorite. That probably is my favorite King book. So I love that book. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I was actually talking with Whitney from Secret Sauce of
Hmm.
Storycraft the other day about Stephen King, and she asked me what was my best King novel in your opinion. It was tough, but I picked it because
Yeah.
it was either that or 11/22/63. So
Hmm.
it was tough. It was tough. I'm telling you, he's written a lot of winners.
Yeah, I reread The Stand in January and had a fantastic time. I hadn't read it in 10, 15 years, so it was a
Yeah, I
good
might need to
time.
reread that at some point. I remember really enjoying it. I don't love the
Yeah.
climax of that book, but aside from the climax, it was a good
Yeah.
experience.
I don't know that anybody does.
I think
It
King
feels like he
himself is
mailed it
even.
in a little bit.
I
Yeah, it
think
feels
King
like he
even
mailed it in
admitted
maybe a
that
little
he
bit.
kind of pulled that one out of his hat. You know.
Yeah, but enough things worked in the story for me that I had a great time.
Yeah, same for
But
me.
I think I'm gonna probably do it maybe next month or in April. So because it's been years since I've read that as well. So basically, the way I'm doing it is anything I've read within the last couple of years, I'm skipping over. Anything else that I either haven't read yet or is a reread, I'm reading those out. So, and I'm starting with just the novels because doing the short stories and the novellas and all that stuff is just too much. Already the novels is too much, but um,
I mean, he has written some great novellas. I mean,
oh, for sure,
I
yeah,
think
I love the
1922 is
collections.
one of his best horror stories in general. So, I mean,
I haven't read 1922. I feel like I watched. Wasn't there a Netflix movie about it?
there
I feel like I
was,
watched it.
and Thomas
Yeah,
Jane was in it, and he was very good.
yeah.
Um,
I feel like I need to rewatch it because I don't remember it. But that's just the old guy in me. No, the different seasons and Four Past Midnight are two of my favorite collections. So I love his novellas for sure.
um, another novel of his I enjoy. There's a lot of them. Misery. I like Misery a lot. I mean,
I was all lined
I
up
do
to do
think
Misery last year, and I didn't get around to
I do
it.
think the ending is a little stretched out, but it's really well done for them. It's very well done. I like it. It's one of his best, I think.
My friend Jack and I did Cujo at
Ooh.
the end of January, and I was disappointed. But I think probably that's the expectations of just something that is like just a
I'm gonna
everybody
share
knows
one of my
everybody knows Cujo.
I'm gonna share one of my favorite fun facts real quick with you. That take
Yeah.
a shot, everybody, if you've started the Britain's Hangout Hour drinking game. But apparently, in the height of Stephen King's drug using,
Hmm.
drug addiction, he got so messed up on drugs he doesn't
Yeah.
remember writing Cujo, and for just some reason that that blows my mind. Like I
It is
can't
crazy.
fathom like how do you miss that much of your life. I mean, I don't think Stephen King's lying or anything, but like that's
No.
crazy.
Yeah. I didn't have that one lined up just yet, but my friend Jack in the Book Stack, she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna read this. You should read it with me." So I did, and I think both of us were just a little bit let down. But
It's one of his
I had
darkest
read
ones.
I'd read The Stand, which I loved, of course, and then I read The Long Walk, which I'd never read before and I loved. And
Long
I
Walk's
was on
pretty
this
good.
I was on this super big high, and then I read Cujo, and I'm like, I don't care about this guy's ad campaigns, and like there just was a lot in there that made no difference to me.
It's
And
interesting.
I sort of a little bit was invested in the little kid, the boy, but that was the only human character that meant anything to me. So yeah, it was tough. So
I remember the
wasn't a.
ending really affected me in Cujo, but I don't remember the much of the experience.
Mhm.
Um,
The ending I think was good. The last 50 to 100 pages, I thought he rounded it out nice. Like ironically, it was a King book with what I felt was a pretty strong ending, and he went to a pretty dark place.
that's
Um,
why it's tough for me to pick it and 11/22/63 is my favorite King because both of them have very strong endings. At least I
mhm.
think so. I think most people would
No, I
agree
agree.
11/22/63's ending is great.
Yeah, it
Um,
couldn't be better. Really, really good.
Also, I like its ending. Its ending is really great. I like it a
Yeah,
lot. I mean, I know there's some people like, yeah, it's too long, but I don't care. I don't care. It's great.
it's been too long, and I don't remember all the details. That's why I got to go back and reread it. But I'm looking forward to that reread. That's going to be a
Well,
lot of
I
fun.
was, I was just talking about the endings.
Yeah, I don't
But
remember the details of the ending. Is what I'm like. It's been two.
okay, yeah.
I remember the one scene that I'd like to forget
Oh,
towards
yeah,
the end, but
yeah, that one. Yeah,
but
that
uh,
one. Yeah, yeah,
other than that, I don't remember a ton about kind of what happened to the Losers Club at the end there. So I'll have to check it back out. But
yeah. I gotta
yeah,
gotta go for Stephen King here. He's all like, "You guys were fine with the child murder. Like, why is this thing so bad?" I'm like, look,
because it is.
it is. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Because it is. Yeah.
That's
But yeah, so anyway, long story short, it's nice to have some of these thriller books to kind of break up these huge King novels and fantasy books and other stuff that I'm doing. So,
yeah. That dude just
uh,
puts out chunkers. I'm like, I've written a novel and it's only about like 200 something pages, and I'm like,
mhm,
I don't know how people like King or guys like David Foster Wallace or like Thomas Pynchon or anyone who writes like
mhm.
a gigantic thick book. I don't know how they do that.
I don't know.
I don't know how they do it.
I wish I had storytelling in me. I just
I
am a
wish I could.
passenger.
I wish I could like I don't know on Twitter somehow or X or whatever they call it now. I could go to Stephen King and be like, how do you get so much like ammunition in your head to put all that on like to have that many pages in your book? I'd probably be like, I don't know.
Have you read On Writing?
I've read parts of it. I haven't read the whole
Okay.
thing, but I know like there's some of that I have read and I liked.
I like On Writing a lot, but ironically, it's not a great novel to teach someone how to write, I don't think. It's more of a memoir than anything else. And I distinctly remember at one point he's talking about the way he crafts his stories is he's like an archaeologist dusting off the dinosaur bones. Like he
Mm.
literally talks about how it's all there and he just needs to find it. And how does that help anybody who's an aspiring writer? I don't know how it would help, but
Think
uh,
he's
like it's just so interesting. Like he and George R. R. Martin and those kind of people that are more gardeners, that are more I'll just discovery write and see what happens. And then you have kind of the opposite side of the wall there with guys like Rockio and the other planners out there that and Sanderson and others that
Mm-hmm.
are so detailed in their outlines. And King is sort of the exception. Most discovery writers don't publish a lot, but that dude just pumps out book after book, year after year, while these other people never get off the ground because they're too busy working and reworking their stories.
Yeah, I just realized through my own relatively brief writing career that I've had so far, just do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not really. I mean, I understand how you can get kind of held back with the, how am I gonna put this all together? But
Hmm.
just do it. You'll
Hmm.
feel better once you have it done.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I won't pretend it's like perfect every time. Like, good lord, I'll write and I'll just be like, this is terrible. Who's gonna read this? But
I've read
I'm in my own head a
like
lot, so I could be wrong.
well, I think that's pretty common for writers. I've read quite a bit of books about how to write. It's an interesting topic to me.
Hmm.
Even though like I aspire to have written, I don't aspire to do the actual hard work of writing. So
I know
um,
what you mean. It's
which
it's
which is not very
it's
valuable.
not it's
Like
not
a
easy. I'll tell you that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it can't be that bad. You're just typing stuff in a computer." No, no, it's not that at all.
but like the honestly the best advice in many writing books is write,
Yeah,
which
just do it.
sounds so simple, but like they're given all this about basically if you don't have a dedicated time of day, a protected time to do your writing, you need to make time. If you have that protected time, you need to write during that time. So otherwise nothing gets done, so which is obvious, but it's also the biggest tripping point for a lot of people, I think.
Um, but yeah, no, it's yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I feel like a lot of writers, and I've been guilty of this too. Kind of get stuck in their heads a lot about
Uh-huh.
craft and all that.
Yeah.
That's why I try to tell people. I haven't been published yet, so I mean, I guess I'm not really an authority, but I'm just like, just do it. Don't get too in your head. I've done it. It won't get you anywhere. I
Hmm.
had a friend of mine, God bless him, Josh. He finally
Hmm.
was the one who's like, just fucking do it, man. Like, what do you
Hmm.
like? Get off your ass and do it. Like, you have no excuse. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. I'm like, one, fuck you. Two, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah. I don't have to like it, but you are correct. Yeah, I get it. That's how advice usually goes when people give me advice. Yeah. What's your book about, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, well, the one I completed is
Yeah.
about a guy. His name's Koba. He's kind of
Uh-huh.
like he's kind of like a Batman. Well, kind of a Batman-like character, I guess. And
Sure.
he gets in trouble for something that he can't back out of. But this one guy, who's an old acquaintance of his, decides to give him an out of sorts by
Hmm.
um, I don't know if you watch a lot of movies, but there's a film called The
Sometimes.
Proposition, and it's
Okay.
basically about well, there's the proposition. This guy gets caught, and he basically says, "You have to kill your brother in order to let me
Ah.
free you and your younger brother." It's like that,
Okay.
except he
Gotcha.
doesn't have to kill anybody. He just has to figure out what's going on in this town. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. So then some fantasy shenanigans get up into play. So looking
Nice. I
forward
do
to.
like fantasy shenanigans.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I mean, it's weird because it's kind of a mystery, but then it gets kind of like revealed, and I don't know. It's why
I
it's.
think genre bending and blending genres is a smart thing to do.
I mean, it's a
Um,
fantasy, so that's kind of what I'm going with right now.
yeah, for sure.
But but yeah. So if any writers are watching this, just do it.
Hmm.
It'll probably look bad. It's okay. It wasn't. I look back at my when I was like, there was a week there where I was feeling pretty good about myself that I actually wrote it down, and then I gave
Hmm.
it to a friend of mine to edit. Actually, this, as a matter of fact, the same one who got me to write the damn thing in the first place.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Here's all the stuff you did." And I'm like, "What was I thinking?" He's like, "Man," but you know, I'm hard on myself. So what do you want me to say?
Yeah, people like published writers that I respect and stuff. Like I'm so interested in their writing process and things. Like I geek out on some of those things. But like I'll read like a blog post of Joe Abercrombie, who I love, and
I
he'll
also
talk
do.
about the books that he's working on right now and be like, the writing is just drivel. I've hated everything I've written, but it's getting there. And like that's just I can't imagine.
That's
Uh,
another guy I would love to talk to. Like if ever I got the chance, Joe Abercrombie. He
Joe,
seems like an
Joe's
interesting
great.
man.
Yeah, he's so cool. He's still working on like screenwriting projects and doing other stuff along with writing his new series, which is pretty cool. So I'll be interested to see how I get along with it. I love everything First Law. I didn't get along quite as well with Shattered Sea, and I still haven't even read the third book in that trilogy because the second one let me down so hard.
Yeah,
But
I've heard the Shattered Seas books are like okay, not very. I've heard they're very like I've heard very meh reactions to just outright this was disappointing.
I don't think it's in my opinion, not a great book, but I liked where he was going with the first novel. And the character that he sort of built up with that is just sidelined for the most part in the second book, which was part of the big problem that I had. And I didn't care for the people that he had out on the stage instead of this character, Yorvi, I think his name is.
Yeah,
I,
I've heard
I
Hyperion. There's a similar thing, similar issue with the first and
I
second book.
yeah, I haven't read Hyperion yet, so I can't for
Hoping
sure
to read it
comment on that.
sometime this year. So we'll see how that goes.
I read bits and pieces of the first Hyperion book back many, many years ago, but I've never gone back to it. So, which it wasn't because I wasn't liking it. I just probably it was the time I was taking sips of books and not drinking or eating the full course. So, I'll get back to it at some point.
I understand what you mean. I'm always looking at snippets of books and then I forget about them and
Hmm.
like but I'm hoping to get to Hyperion this year. I've heard a
Hmm.
lot of people are like, "Hey, if you were kind of meh on Dune, Hyperion's pretty good." So I'm like, "Oh, I'll try it out." Sounds like something I would dig, but we'll see.
I adore Dune, but it's not for everybody.
No, it is not. The movie has grown on me though.
That's good.
Funnily enough, like the design of that film is so good. I don't know,
Yeah, pretty sick. It's good
and the
stuff.
music is really good too.
Yeah, I like it. I need to rewatch it. I have only seen it the one time at the theater in IMAX and had a good time. I need to rewatch it because I'm looking forward to part two coming out here soon. So,
I should note it's probably the best adaptation I've seen of Dune so far.
oh,
So,
easily, yeah.
and I think
It's
they even I might get some flack from the Dune fans here, but I do think they improved a few things. I won't, it's I think the book and movie are pretty close, but man, for instance, I thought I took Harkonnen more seriously as a villain in the movie than I did in the book because
interesting.
in,
Okay,
in in the book he's kind of this just opulent, disgusting pederast, you know.
he is that. Yeah.
Where you're like,
Um,
ugh, like, but at the same
here's
time, it's kind of. I'm just speaking for me personally here. It was just kind of hard for me to take seriously at times. I'm like, really, like, come on. But oh well, it is what it is.
yeah, I read it when I was 20, and I've read it once or twice since then, and I've loved it each time. Um, and I've read Messiah, which I quite enjoyed, and I haven't continued from there, but I need to at some point because I want to at least get through God Emperor. Um, so we'll get there at some point.
Yeah, my
But
dog chewed my copy, so I got rid of it because it just wasn't poor. And I know
nice.
that sounds like the like old like school excuse, like my dog ate my homework, but I'm not
Uh
kidding.
huh.
It literally, my dog literally ate the or not ate it, but she bit on it, and it was just that wasn't fun. Um,
Yeah, I don't. I have special editions of books that I really enjoy in kind of physical condition, but most of my book collection is digital. And because I have nice copies of stuff, I'm really happy not to have a pet. So,
Also,
um,
I'll admit my Dune reading was kind of doomed from the start because I was kind of in a bad mental space when I read it in 2020. So it wasn't really
yeah,
wasn't
I
fun.
don't know that. Yeah, I don't think it's the kind of book or series that you want to read when you're on a downer. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel like a book that's going to prop you up emotionally. So,
I don't know. It wasn't really that. It was just kind of like I just didn't feel like reading it, and I'm like, I might put this down. And then my dog chewed on it, and I was like, all right. And then I ended up finishing it, and I was like,
so I really love the audiobook narration of it. So they have kind of a full cast narration, and I like everybody that they brought in for it. But particularly, I'm a big Simon Vance fan, and he does a lot of it. And I like Scott Brick a lot; he does quite a bit of it. So um, my my love for Dune is enhanced because of the audiobook narration, which tends to happen for me. The things that I love the most tend to also have audiobook narrations that make me really appreciate it even more.
I mean I've done a few audiobooks, but I'm one of those guys. I just get distracted really easily when I start listening to something. I mean, it could be a podcast or like I don't not movies. For some reason, I can go through movies just fine. But I've been watching a lot of movies since I was a kid, so I guess that makes sense. But like audiobooks, I don't know. It's kind of tough for me. I mean, there are some I enjoy. Like I really like the First Law
Stephen
audiobooks a
Pacey's the
lot.
best.
Really
Yeah,
really shows how audiobooks can be an art in and of itself, or at least that's how I
yeah,
view it.
for sure.
Um, yeah, I like it a lot. I think he's a really talented guy.
So I tend to focus more for two reasons. One, I'm more of an audio learner. I
Mm.
tend to retain more that I hear than what I see. And secondly, I tend to do both at once. So I immersively read where I'm reading the page while I'm listening to it. So that takes away the tendency to be distracted on stuff because I have, two modes that I'm absorbing the information from, and I also tend to retain it better that way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Or well, I hear you anyway. What I was gonna
Hmm.
say is you were mentioning Star Wars earlier. I saw that
Hmm.
Rockio and crew put out some new covers, and there's a literal lightsaber. I'm like, oh man, I hope he doesn't get sued.
So the weapon is a high matter sword in the story. It is very similar in many
I was about to say,
aspects to
yeah,
a
I see.
lightsaber,
So,
but I think I think it's a cooler weapon than a lightsaber personally. But
that might be some fighting words for the Star Wars fans.
so um, I love Sun Eater more than most things,
Fair
and I
enough.
love it more than most people. So I tend to also be a champion of this is better than whatever it is you guys are reading or doing. So, which probably just annoys everybody around me. And Rocky was probably rolling his eyes too. So that just it is what it is. Um, but if there was ever a series built specifically for me and my taste, Sun Eater feels like that.
I know what you mean.
So
I don't watch a lot of anime, but Cowboy Bebop is that kind of media for me. It's just like, yes, this is everything I want, you know?
I I have never really tried anime. Just the name Cowboy Bebop, just that already turns me away from trying it, which I know is not fair. Uh,
I was about to say, oh, Cowboy Bebop's one of the more like grounded anime. You want to really go bonkers. There's like, there's like fucking Attack on Titan, which is basically these big gigantic monster people running
I have
around
actually seen some Attack on Titan, so
or
I'm familiar
One
with the
Piece,
concept there.
which I haven't
Yeah.
read or seen, but my god, that looks bonkers too. I don't, I can take, I can only take so much weirdness before I'm like, okay, this is breaking my immersion. I gotta, you know.
I try to keep my screen time somewhat limited in terms of TV watching and this kind of stuff. So I tend to be pretty selective
I know
about
what you mean.
what I watch.
I haven't watched anything in like 6 months because, well, that's a lie. I did watch the new season of Rick and Morty, But yeah, I'm the same way. But that's mainly because I have a bunch of streaming services, and I just
Hmm.
God, I can't choose. It's like being overwhelmed with choice. You're just like, oh God, why?
I just one thing I did just watch a couple things. I just binged through the second season of Reacher, which I
Heard that's
love.
pretty
It's
good.
based on the series. That's really
I've
good.
read a couple of the
I
novels. They're pretty good.
Yeah, I read the first two, and the first season is based on the first novel. The second season is based on like book six, I think. I really enjoyed it.
Hmm.
And then I also watched Lincoln Lawyer, which is Michael Connolly, who also does Bosch. So
If I
he's got a Lincoln
remember,
Lawyer series in that same universe.
I think I read this somewhere, but I think Bosch and the Lincoln Lawyer are brothers.
I think that is correct. I don't know for sure. Either brothers or stepbrothers or something, but there's no crossover in the show, at least not yet. And the reason for that is that they're on different streaming services.
Fair
So
enough. Yeah.
I watched quite a bit of Bosch too, not the whole thing, but Bosch is on Amazon, and Lincoln Lawyer is on, I don't, Paramount Plus or something. I had one of them. I don't know what it's
I
on, but
I haven't watched Bosch, but I like Titus Welliver a lot. I'm a big fan of Deadwood
he's
and
great in Bosch.
and
Fantastic.
Lost. He was in Lost for like a season. He was really good in that too.
Yeah.
Um, he's been good in other things as well. He was also in the Gone Baby Gone adaptation, which was pretty good. Though it kind of, well, it didn't ruin the experience, but I was kind of awkward reading the book after watching the movie because I was like, oh. But
Is
it's
that's Gillian Flynn, right? Or am
no,
I
that's
thinking of something
Dennis
else?
Lehane. Gone Girl is
Oh, it's
Gillian
Lahane.
Flynn.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Lahane is another author I want to get into. I want to read Shutter Island and all that other stuff.
That's a good one.
I haven't gotten to any of those yet. Um, so maybe we'll pick one of those up on this thriller read along.
Yeah, it's a good one. I saw Josh from Red Fury Books was reading
Yeah,
Lehane, so I mean that's I might
he's a
have
big Lahane fan.
I
Yeah, him and
I'm thinking
Durfee are the two that I know that are big Lahane fans.
yeah I actually want to get him on my show again because our last episode
Yeah,
I'm pleased with it, but like there were a lot of tech issues, and I want to do it
yeah.
again. It's like I'm still kind of like, oh, it couldn't have been. It could have been better than it
Hmm.
was. I mean, it was already good, but yeah, I'm sure you get what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
Josh is great. Good dude. Also a huge Robin Hobb fan, so he's got my vote of confidence. So
Yeah, Robin Hobb is blown up on YouTube. I'm just like, she's one of those I haven't read yet. I'm just waiting for the right mood to hit me, and I'll read it at some point. But
So I've been a big fan for 20 years or so. So uh, I've read Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire multiple times, and George has always been an author that I've adored. And so he used to actually, in between kind of publishing books once in a while, he did a blog that he would regularly update, which he doesn't do anymore, even that. But he would talk about authors he was into. So Robin Hobb, Joe Abercrombie, Scott Lynch, all these people that I love are direct descendants of George, pretty much. I've been reading most of them longer than anybody on BookTube
oh yeah,
because he told me about them long before anybody else knew about
oh
them.
yeah, I just read the Gentleman Bastard. Well, the ones that are out anyway. I've read the
Mm-hmm.
books and enjoyed the first two a lot. First one's still my favorite. Third one I
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of issues with, but there's still some stuff I enjoyed.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw you didn't care for Republic of Thieves as much, which I which is
yeah, when
fine.
I got a little ranty in that review because there was just some stuff in
It's
that
all
one
good.
I was like, man, that was really bad. But let's see.
I
Those first two
I
books
gotta
though are
say,
really good though. I'm just I really enjoyed them a lot.
it's hard for me to choose between Lies and Red Seas because I love both a lot. I enjoy Republic of Thieves a lot as well, but it's been years, literally, since I've read it last. So I read it when it first came out, obviously, and I think I've read it maybe one time since then. So it's been a long time. It's a series I've been thinking about doing a reread for a while because it's been so long.
Yeah, but
And
I was just gonna say, like, I love that friendship between Locke and John. It's
mm-hmm.
beautifully done, and I really like the world too, and just the weird. I'm a sucker for good world building. What can I say?
It's another one where if you want to try out the audiobooks are fantastic for that series.
I'll have to
Really, really
check it
good.
out at some point, maybe if I want to reread. There's a bunch of books I want to reread. I'm just really lazy and haven't gotten to them, and also I'm one of
Yeah.
those guys I like to trudge forward and try new books. Because if
Mm-hmm.
I just was rereading a lot, I felt I would just get stuck. But
It
sometimes I'll,
happens.
I'll get burned out and I'll reread a book to kind of get me back into it, to the saddle.
Audiobooking's a good way to reread, so it's something you can kind of do in your downtime and stuff as well.
Yeah, like, there's a couple. I mean, I don't know if you play a lot of video games, but Roger Clark, he played Arthur in Red Dead Redemption 2. He's a very good
Okay.
audiobook narrator.
What does
Um,
he do? What does he narrate?
he's done a couple of things. He did this Western fantasy that I've actually been meaning to read. I haven't read it yet, but
Mm-hmm.
because he was the audiobook narrator, and I really love Red Dead Redemption 2. I checked it out,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I just haven't gotten to it yet. He's done nonfiction books. He's done some
Mm-hmm.
crime novel. He did a
Mm-hmm.
Tana, I don't know, Irish lady author. She's kind of like Gillian Flynn over in Ireland. Her name's Tana
Okay.
French.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't
Okay.
read
I've seen her
any of
books.
I haven't read any of her books yet, but they do sound up my alley of what crime fiction I enjoy. So
Yeah,
maybe
it's like a
someday.
Irish detective type of deal. I know Durfee's talked about that series. He really likes it.
He's done, I think, either one or multiple of her novels, and he also did some for. I actually just met him recently, James Wade, who I am
Okay.
really digging. And I also met him. I'm hoping to get him on this show. But
Oh, cool.
he said that he gave my email telling him what this show is to his publicist. So that's up in the air at the moment.
Okay.
I was like, okay, it's yeah, all right if that's what you need to do. But yeah, also his next book comes out in August, so that should be fun to navigate through. So I'm probably gonna have to wait a few months. Um,
Hmm.
but you say you like first person narrations. I think you would really dig Black Leopard Red Wolf, which
Yeah,
is
I own it. I have never read it. I've heard good things.
oh, it's
I'll check it
fantastic.
out at some point.
I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
There were I was on my friend John's show a while back because he very
Hmm.
graciously invited me to his show because
Talking story. Yeah.
yeah, talking story, great
Yeah.
guy.
Good dude.
I'm actually about to do a buddy read together, which he sent me because we're doing a thing at the beginning, and he sent me the footage for it.
Uh-huh.
I'm looking forward to that. But
Nice.
yeah, I was mentioning Black Leopard Red Wolf, and everyone was just bashing it in the comment section in the live chat. I was like, man,
I've
dang
heard
it.
some mixed things, but it's also a book that's been around for a while. So,
It's a
um,
great book. I mean, if you like I've heard it been. I saw Neil Gaiman's blurb compare it to Gene Wolfe. So,
okay,
which
interesting.
after I heard that, I was like, well, if Book of the New Sun is like Black Leopard Red Wolf, I think I'll have a good time with it.
I know that Gaiman is a big Gene Wolfe fan, and
Yes, I think they were friends
like
as well, but I could be wrong.
most likely, yeah, I think you're probably right. So yeah, I mean that's big praise if that's what he's comparing it to, because I know how much esteem he has for Wolfe's writing. So, and Gene Wolfe has beautiful writing. I don't always know what the hell he's talking about, but it's very nice to read. I'll
Well,
tell
I
you
mean,
that.
I should note, Black Leopard Red Wolf is not for the impatient. It's kind of one you have to kind of. But you've read Book of the New Sun. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Well, I also have plenty of patience because my favorite author is Robin Hobb,
Oh,
and she's
okay.
not in a hurry to get anywhere. So, uh,
Yes, I've heard that. I was talking to yeah, a lot of people. I mean, you know Derry, I hope.
oh, I
Um,
love Derry. She's the best.
yeah, she's great. I had her on my show a few months ago, and
Yeah,
sweet person.
yeah.
Big Hob fan, and I basically just gave her free reign to convert me to the Church of Hob. Um,
She is the biggest Hobb historian that I know. She's
Oh, and
like an
she did. It was
encyclopedia of
great.
hob knowledge. She's who I go to if I don't know something or I'm not sure what's going on
Either that or
in a hob
Pratchett.
book.
She'll tell you. She'll give you the news.
Yeah, I recently got the Humble Bundle for all of Terry Pratchett's Discworld series.
Dang, you
I
got
still
all of
don't
them?
know if it's ever going to be. It was like $18 for all of his books. So
Wow, that's crazy.
I'm like, it's never going to be cheaper than this, and it's Humble Bundle, so it goes to a good cause. So I picked it up, and it goes through Kobo, like the Kobo app instead of Kindle. So all my other stuff's on Kindle, so it's a new platform for me or whatever. But 18 bucks, I can't say no. It's 50 cents a book, basically. I can't say no to that.
Yeah, I was about to say
So
that sounds like a really good deal. Like, where'd you get that? Was that like a used bookstore?
no, it's Humble Bundle. So they're
Oh,
digital copies, so it goes through Kobo.
oh,
So
that makes more sense.
yeah, so Humble Bundle occasionally will do stuff like this. Like they did all of the Malazan, like everything Esselmont and Erickson did. So we're talking $30. And I should have probably gone in on that one too, but it was like same deal. It was like $25 for 30 some books or whatever. And since all my stuff is digital anyway, like, if I was buying those digitally for their Kindle cost, it would be a lot more money than that. So, um, but yeah, Humble Bundle is something to check out, especially if you like gaming and stuff. I'm not into necessarily gaming, but they do video game stuff like that too. Which I didn't. That
Also,
sounded bad. I didn't mean that in a like. I'm not looking down on people that
oh
game.
no,
It's just not
I
something
hear
that
you.
I
I
do.
hear you. You
I
know,
didn't mean I didn't mean that in a disparaging way. I hope
you
it didn't
don't,
come off that way.
you don't seem like the type who disparages people's good time.
No, I don't. Yeah, I am a massive chess fan, so I sit and watch chess for hours. So and baseball for hours, and the stuff that I love is not necessarily stuff everybody else does. So I don't want people putting my hobbies
I
down, so I
like
don't put their
chess,
hobbies down.
but I've never been able to like play it to a consistent level where I'm actually like decently okay at it.
I've been super into it since I was 7. My dad taught me, so I
Yeah, my
follow
dad
pretty
taught me
high
as
level
well.
chess all the time. Yeah,
He was just like,
my dad. Oh, sorry, I didn't
"Oh,
mean to interrupt.
sorry,
Go ahead.
no, it's all right." Well, my dad also showed me how to play. It was basically my point I was making. But continue what you
Yeah.
were saying.
No, no. My dad is actually really good at the game, and he's never like dedicated any real time to it. He kind of inherently understands a lot of strategy and concepts. So he's a good person to learn from. And then I learned basically everything else from computer training and all that kind of stuff, and books and these kind of things. So. And now there's all kinds of YouTube videos. There's all kinds of live coverage. I wish all that stuff would have been around when I was a kid. I could have be a lot more further advanced now than I would have been. So, but
There was a, if I remember right, there was a chess club in my high school. I just never joined it because, it was more like a passing hobby. Like, oh, I'll do it if I have a bunch of other things I'm doing.
yeah,
But no, I like chess fine. I just haven't really played it in a very long
hmm
time.
yeah, but yeah. Long story short, I'll never. So the other day,
You won't
on
play Boris Spassky. I hear you. I hear you.
the other day, Caitlin, a friend of mine over on Mike's server, said she wasn't going to yuck anybody's yum. So that's kind of the going phrase for I'm not going to disparage people's hobbies or the books that they like and stuff. I'm not going to yuck your yum,
I like
which
that.
is
I
just
like that.
makes me laugh to hear. No, I was into video games in high school when it was the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
I like some Mario and
oh yeah,
yeah.
I got out of it, sometime in college, and just the systems became too expensive, and I wasn't willing to pay it. And now it's still expensive, and I'm not willing to pay it. And now I don't have time to do it anyway. I actually got a PS4 a few years ago, and I wasn't playing enough to justify it, so I sold it. So
My fantasy author Hall of Shame.
oh yeah,
Does
see
that
that
mean
video?
are those bad fantasy authors or just ones you
No,
like or
those are ones that I'm ashamed that I haven't read yet.
oh okay.
And And I think I still haven't read any of them even to this point. And I did that video like a year ago.
Oh, I have a
Um,
couple of those. Like again, Le Guin. I haven't read her.
I have her on
That's
that video. Yeah, I haven't read
that's a
her
big
stuff.
one that hurts. Um, Roger Zelazny. I haven't read him.
I started to read his series. What's his series called? The Amber. I started to read the first book of Amber, and I wasn't really digging it. I'll
Uh,
try it again at some point.
well, I mean, he's more of a sci-fi writer, but Samuel Delaney. I haven't tried him yet.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm blanking on other fantasy authors because I there's others I like. I would have said Joe Abercrombie or Scott Lynch last year, but I tried them and I've enjoyed all of them very
yeah,
much.
yeah. It makes
Um,
me happy when people become new Abercrombie Lynch fans. That's a good deal.
it's kind of
I've been
funny
reading
because
those
like
guys since the early
it was
2000s,
kind
so
of
it makes me
funny because
happy.
like everybody was like, Joe was one of those guys on YouTube. Everyone will tell you the good
Hmm.
news, and I'm like, okay, yeah. So 2022, I read The Blade itself. I'm not kidding. Literally the first page, I'm like, all right, I'm in. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, I read The Blade itself. It couldn't have been out for a year when I read it, and I've been a hardcore Abercrombie fan since. So
And the other two books I enjoy a lot. My favorite of the original trilogy anyway is three, because it's just like, and it's like, yep, everything sucks now, and you're like, oh,
yeah, John on Talking Story talked about three, right? Who's the author again?
who?
What are we talking? Are you talking about
Oh,
when
I'm
you
talking
say
about
three?
Abercrombie. I'm talking about
Oh,
Abercrombie.
oh, I'm sorry. So you're talking okay. You're talking about Last Argument of Kings when you say three?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't specify that. I thought you knew what I was saying. But
No, my bad. I because John just read a novel called Three, I think, and I
oh
thought maybe that's what you were talking about.
no,
Anyway,
it's
my bad. I'm bad at
no, I was
listening.
talking about Last Argument of Kings. Yeah, that one really knocked my socks off. The last 100 pages are some of the most dread-inducing stuff I've read in a long time. You're like, yes, that's
You
the golden zone.
that's the
Suffer.
good stuff. Yeah, that's the good stuff. Have you only read you've read the first trilogy only, or you went further than that?
I've read the first trilogy and Best Served Cold, and I've taken a
Okay.
break since then. I'll get
Okay.
back to Abercrombie. I'm just taking a break right now because I'll admit I was starting to feel a little burned out when I got to Last Argument of Kings. Then I announced the Best Served Cold movie, and I was like, oh crap. So I read Best Served Cold, started to feel that burnout a little bit, and I'm like, all right, we're we're good on that. I'll
Do you
chill for a
find
little
that
bit.
you don't like to kind of binge the series together? You like to take breaks and stuff?
Yeah, though. Well, yes, usually, but it's interesting because I actually binged the first Law. Like, well, read the first one in 2022. Then beginning of 2023, I read the
Before
other
they're
two
hanged?
books. Read Before They Were Hanged and Last Argument of Kings, and like
Hmm.
in succession,
Yeah,
um, or succession. I don't know.
I know what you mean.
I can't English today.
Yeah.
Um, Liked all of them. I like all of them a lot. I mean, I don't want to toot the horn too much because, like, I feel like a lot of what I would say, has to, well, mostly what other people have said is the characters are really well done and the arcs are really well
Indeed.
done and, Baez, good stuff. It's good stuff.
It is good stuff.
Battle scenes are
I
fun. Also, well, fun's the entirely wrong word. They're pretty terrifying, actually.
A couple years back, I did a re-listen of the entire series leading up to Wisdom of Crowds. It was one of the best things I've ever done. I
Stephen
want to
Pacey, man,
re-listen to
he's
all
really
of it
good.
again. Yeah, Pacey's the best. He's my favorite. The Heroes is probably my second favorite of the nine in First Law,
Mm.
or 10 if you count the collection of short stories, I guess. My favorite is Wisdom of Crowds, which is not maybe the most popular of opinions, which is the last one that he wrote in the new trilogy. But I love the heroes, and that you'll find people that are like the heroes is shit, and then you'll find people like me like the heroes is the best thing ever. So
I've heard a lot of
I'll be
people's. I've
interested to
heard
see
mostly
what
positive
you think.
things about the heroes. So
I adore it. It's so good, so good. Some of his best humor, and he takes characters that I shouldn't care about at all or I should
yeah.
hate, and I end up rooting for them. And he has that inherent ability. He's just so good at that.
I think you would like. I think you would like Beyond Redemption by Michael R. Fletcher. He does a similar
I've heard
thing.
good things. It's an author I want to
I
check
don't
out.
know if I mean most of the characters in that story are pretty reprehensible, but I
Yeah,
understood them. I don't know if I like felt for him in the same way I felt for like Logan Nine Fingers or
sure,
Glockta, but I
sure.
understood them. I'm like, oh, you're not, it's not that bad. Some good
Glockta is
stuff
my
though.
second favorite character in fiction. My favorite is Tyrion Lannister, and then Glockta. Those are my
Ha!
one and two favorite characters ever. So
I enjoy. I was like, I'm the basic guy. I like Glockta the best. He's great. I love him.
he's so good.
He's so relatable. He just deals with the minutia of life in the way
Yeah, I
that I'm
think
like, yep, that's pretty annoying.
probably why I love Last Argument of Kings so much is just the way his story through line goes. Um, it's really satisfying to see where he ends up and how things go, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
I'll admit I kind of felt sad because it was kind of like he it's kind of I kind of felt it was sad, but I do agree it was satisfying, like as the narrative anyway.
uh-huh.
It wasn't like he became good again and
No,
or something like that.
again, there, in the short stories collection, there is a prequel featuring him prior to his capture and torture and all that stuff, which is kind of interesting. And of course, it feels like a completely different character because, of course, torture and all that stuff would change a person. So,
Yeah,
so that's it.
it's
I
kind
like
of
that story.
interesting, like seeing him and just all together, or like
Hmm.
Shivers
Hmm.
and Logan together. I kind of view them as like mirror characters to each other.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I hope you keep going because
I do
I
plan to. I
am
just haven't gotten to it yet.
I'm one of these weird people that enjoys the second trilogy more than the first, and
I
I,
don't
I
think that's
like the
too weird. That's what
standalones a
most
lot.
people I've talked to have said to me. They've gone like, "Oh, you like the first one. The second that one's a freaking cracker." That's
It's interesting. It's sort of a generational type of deal, so
what I've
um,
heard, that
which I
interests me.
like. Yeah, which I like a lot, and I know one of the I guess criticisms is that there's not enough attention focus to the characters that people fell in love with in the first series.
Mm.
Which again, I understand the criticism, but um, I don't know. I like what he did. I like the way that he played with things in that world. So um,
I heard Glockta
that's
returns, kind of. He's not a viewpoint character anymore, though. From what I've
right.
heard, which was kind of
He's
sad.
not a central character, but he does have some screen time, which is nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed. I liked Best Served Cold, but I was nagged by that feeling that Joe was just kind of treading water there for a bit, and also the
There
side
is,
characters I thought were more interesting than our main one, but that was
yeah, I think there's some of that. I I think he probably could have chopped down on that book a tiny bit. There's some meandering going on.
Mhm.
There's some stuff that didn't probably need to be there as much. He would have made it maybe a little stronger, but I enjoy it. I like heist type stories. I like
So
that
I
kind
bet you
of
really enjoyed
thing.
Red Seas Under
So
Red Skies then, because like that's basically a heist. Like a lot of people say Liza
yeah,
Locke Lamora is a heist story, and I'm like, it's more of a
kind of.
revenge story. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, I like Red Seas a lot. That I remember being blown away by that book. So
I'll just say I prefer Liza Locke Lamora because I was just thoroughly satisfied after reading that book. Just I
yeah.
don't know what it is, that like part of me that just wants to see more like fairness in the world. I just
Hmm.
love that the Grey King and the Falconer just get destroyed. I,
Yeah.
I, I love it. I relish in it. I love
Uh-huh.
what they do to the Falconer because I guess
No doubt. That
I'm
is
just
really cool.
I guess I'm just a maniac or something. But it's just like he deserved it so freaking bad. And like Scott Lynch was like, "Oh, I was doing it to show that they're like morally ambiguous characters." I'm like, "Well, he did a terrible job at that. The Falconer's a loathsome character. People
What
would
does Locke
love to
say at
see him
the
be
end?
tortured."
Locke says something about, I don't need to beat you. I just need to hold out until John gets here.
Yep.
Something like that. I just love that.
It's so
So good.
good. Oh, I love it. It's just again, I love that they're destroyed. Like it just like it's as satisfying as watching the Death Star get blown up in Star Wars. It's just
No doubt. Yeah.
I love it.
Really good.
Even though he like I know Lynch kind of like tries to make you feel bad for the Great King, but I'm like, he killed Bug. I don't really care.
Yeah. I know my friend, I had my friend read it, Jack. I talked about her earlier, but she like was fairly new to fantasy, hadn't read a lot. I'm like, well, you need to check out Liza Lockramora. And I told her that and Mistborn, and she's kind of raced through kind of all of Mistborn, and I don't know if she continued with Gentlemen Bastards or not, but I remember the moment she got to Callow and Galdo getting
Oh
getting
no.
offed, and like she's sending me like these messages. She's like, "You bastard!" Like it wasn't that she didn't call me bastard, but it was basically that she
He was
was
like,
she
no.
was she was so pissed off at me. I'm like, you're gonna get some of that with my recommendations.
Yeah,
I'm
I was about to say
sorry.
I was kind of shocked when I'm like, wow, they really just I thought they were gonna be like big characters in the series. No, they just die. You're like, oh man. And then
I
when
love
Bug
those.
and then
Callow
when
Galdo are so cool. Yeah, I wish
when
it
Bug
were over.
died, I was like, man, shit, that's so sad.
Yeah, he's hardcore. Lynch didn't pull any punches in that first book.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
sorry to the people that we're potentially
Oh
spoiling,
yeah,
but
yeah, we're yeah, spoilers for Liza
you
Locklamora.
you'll get to it. You'll be all right.
But again, I just love that they destroy the Grey King. They don't like
Oh yeah.
they ain't playing. Like I just like I'll put it this way, like Stephen King's really good at this, but revenge, they're always talking about how revenge is empty and whatnot and whatever.
Uh-huh.
Fuck that. Like revenge can be awesome. Like it can be a very satisfying experience. That's one of those times where revenge is a really satisfying experience.
So I knew I was going to love Liza Locklamora when I started reading it, and again, this was years and years ago. I distinctly remembered the first scene with chains. I'm like, this is already awesome. And then when they pull like they pull their first job or whatever, and he talks about we needed to pick up some stuff from the bullshit box. I'm like, this is exactly the series for me, where like you got something called the bullshit box where they've got these like coins and jewelry that are worth nothing, but they're using it to kind of show that their heist was bigger than it really was. I'm like, this is my kind of deal. I'm excited about this.
I also
So
like that Lynch isn't afraid to kind of turn his character's strengths against them. Like,
yep.
Locke really loves to push the envelope, and, well, that bites him several times throughout the
Oh
three
yeah.
books. Which I like when I'm like, and that's kind of what I was saying in my Republic of Thieves. I'm like, you read a Locke Lamora book because they're dumb enough to get themselves into a sticky situation, and you want to see how they're gonna get out of it. That's it. Yeah, come on.
I I think that's why I love Red Sea so much. Like he's a drunkard and just useless,
Yeah.
and then
Then
he gets
John
it
just
into his heart.
needles
He's like,
him. He's like,
he's got I've got larceny in my heart, and he talks about all this stuff he's stealing. I'm like, all right, we're back in. Life is good again.
yeah, I love it. He's like, can you quit being a bitch and go like steal some stuff? And he's like, fine, fuck you. And then he steals like half the stuff from the town. And he was like, what
Uh-huh.
are you doing? That's not what I meant. I was setting up something here. I was setting up a crime ring. And he's like, yeah, we're probably gonna have to leave soon.
Yeah, you can't tell Locke to go steal stuff and then be surprised about all the stuff he's stolen. That's who he is.
Yeah, I will say one of the things I like in book three is the flashback sequences in that, where
Mm-hmm.
he just like
Yep.
steals, he's just stealing stuff all over the place. You're like, oh my gosh.
I don't remember as much as I should from that book, but I remember going in. I was excited about it because I wanted to see Sabine on the page. So I wanted to know what it was about this person that he was so obsessed with all the way from book one. And I liked a lot of the stuff with the acting troupe and this kind of stuff
Yeah,
that I
same
know
here.
other
That was
people
probably my
hate.
favorite bits in that
So
book.
yeah.
Where, like, I'm like, oh man, I could have just read about that and I would have been entertained. But,
Hmm.
unfortunately, there was the rest of the book. But, maybe I'm being too hard on it, but, like, I really enjoyed the other two books. So I'm like, there's like a standard there.
I mean, that's entirely fair. The one that gets the most criticism is certainly book three, and I think probably that has been part of his problem, part of his block since then, and part of his, you know, desire not to show people his writing is because the third book wasn't received as well as the first two were. So I don't know,
Well, I've
but
heard
it sounds like there's some news coming, so
I've
we'll
heard he
see.
might he might be coming out of the woodwork soon. So we'll see.
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, be good.
Um, Yeah, no, but yeah, I read that like he was going through like a divorce at the time, and I could
Hmm.
tell that his heart wasn't in it when he did the Republic of Thieves, or at least I gathered that sense as I
Could
was
be.
reading through it.
I'm looking forward to doing a reread of the whole series and kind of seeing how I feel about it. Because like when I first read it, obviously it was pre Booktube and all this stuff, and you know, I'm like new Scott Lynch book, awesome. I didn't. I was just excited that I was reading the book, so I didn't really read it with like a critical eye or anything. It was just I was excited to have Locke and John back on the page.
Fair
So
enough, fair enough. I mean, it's like I mean they're enjoyable. Like I enjoy reading them. Like they're fun. They're
yeah,
fun reads. Like Lies of Lochlamore and Red Seas Under Red Skies are like great. Like I enjoyed
yeah,
both of them thoroughly.
that's good. I like it.
Um, but I mean, I shouldn't have expected any less. It's very Dickens. One of my favorite stories is Oliver Twist, and
Okay.
well, Lies of Lochlamore at least is a bit Oliver Twisty in points.
Yeah, that's fair. I've only I'm terrible. The only Dickens I've read is Christmas Carol, so
That's fair. That's a great
he's an
story.
author that I really need. It is a great story. There were years. I read it for the first time last year, so obviously I'm not the guy when it comes to classics. Either I read it a zillion years ago in high school and forgotten it, or I need to read it still. So, um, like I could say I've read things like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn because I have. I couldn't tell you anything that happened because I don't remember it. I was
Oh,
in
those
junior
are
high
such enjoyable books.
for sure. And I need to make it a point to get to some of these again for sure. So
No, one of my oh, I'm guessing you also like Game of Thrones. I've seen you mention House of the Dragon, which I actually like.
yeah,
I don't know what other people. I've seen some other people get mad at it, but
I
I thought it was pretty
love
good.
House of the Dragon. Yeah, we so Mike and Madison and I do kind of a recap and talk through the series. So we'll get together and do that again for season two. I'm looking forward to that. I loved House of the Dragon season one. I thought it was very strong, and part of it is I love the source material that's based on Fire and Blood is sort of a companion to Targaryen history
Yeah,
that George
I
wrote,
read that a
and
few years ago, and I remember really digging like that first half, and then the second half, I was like, it's kind of a felt
I
kind of
love all of it. So, but I mean that's fair. You liked Aegon's conquest, and then you got kind of
I don't know. I guess I
sidetracked,
just like
which is fine.
I like the war violence stuff. Again, I'm a maniac.
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell
nothing
you.
wrong with that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do in season two. I have some hesitation and some concerns because of like the writer's strike and other stuff. I hope that doesn't soften the product up, if you know what I mean.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Um, so we'll see how it goes. Also, Miguel Sapochnik left to go do other stuff, and he was one of the showrunners. He's one of my favorites. Like most of my favorite Game of Thrones episodes, Sapochnik was involved in. So I'm a little concerned about that, but I think it's in good hands with Ryan. Um, I can't think of his last name now, but the other showrunner. So we'll see. I'm super excited. That's this summer, I think, coming up, July maybe.
Yeah, I've
I
been
think is
looking
when it's coming
forward
out.
to it. I was really liking what they did there. I'm like, yes, they're finally kind of bringing it back to basics, and hopefully they'll
Hmm.
end it well this time, because
Well, George is very involved, and I think
I have
that Game
some,
of Thrones was
I
this.
still have traumatic flashbacks of um, Game of
I think
Thrones
we all do.
season 8.
Yeah, I think we all do to some degree. I didn't mind it as much in the moment, but the more I look back on it, the more not happy I am. Um, but yeah, I think Game of Thrones was its strongest. The show was its strongest when he was involved, and he's very involved in House of the Dragon.
Hmm.
So, hey, we should probably think about cutting this a little bit short if that's okay with you. I need to go pick up my wife.
Oh yeah, I was
Um,
gonna go eat in about 30 minutes, so I mean maybe we can go for about another 5 minutes. I'll let you go. Probably just to
okay,
if that's
yeah, that
okay.
works. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Come here, kitty. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy Game of Thrones a lot. I think that was a very oh, what's the word? I read it when I was younger, so it was very it blew me away. I'm like, oh, so there's more than just the Shire and
It's my favorite series, and always will be. I'm disappointed. We'll probably never see the end of it, but I'm also the type of person that is happy with what I have. So I'm happy that we have the 5 books that we do, along with the reference materials and Blood and Fire and the Seven Kingdoms novellas. All that. I love all of it. So it's by far my favorite thing, fantasy wise.
yeah, no, it's definitely my top 5 favorite fantasy series of all time. It's again, I can't think of the damn word. Um it's
Well, I
like
mean, the show was definitely part of the zeitgeist. I don't know
yeah,
if
it's
that's the
true.
word you're looking for, but it was weird to me as an old school, and I know Mike experienced this too, long before we ever met each other. But we had both been fans of the series since the early 2000s, and we were used to waiting and this kind of stuff. And then people that were new to this whole fandom and stuff would watch the show, and then they would tell me, "You should read the books." Like, read the books 5 times. What are you talking about? Like, I I'm the person that was trying to get people to watch this when nobody knew what it was. I like
Yeah, I know.
don't don't do this Johnny Come Lately stuff to me. I've been here the whole time.
I
So
know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's yeah, it's funny. Or well, I mean, I that hasn't happened to me yet. Or well, actually, that did happen to me when I watched Stranger Things season 4. A lot of people were like, "Oh man, the show's
mhm.
great," and I'm like, "It was great the whole time." I just put on my sunglasses and just get out of there.
I
Um,
never have watched season 4. I enjoyed the first 3 seasons,
oh,
but I
I
haven't
did too.
tried
I
season
think they're
four yet.
all really good. But yeah, people are just kind of like 2 and 3 aren't that great, and I'm like, yeah, they are really good though. So shut your mouth. But
I had that experience twice. I had it with Game of Thrones of the show, and I'm a huge Chicago Cubs baseball fan.
ah,
So when they won it all in 2016, I'm obviously going around my Cubs hat. I'm wearing a Cubs hat now. I always wear a Cubs hat, and people like, "Oh, you pretender, you bandwagon fan." I've been cheering for these idiots since I was 7 years old. What are you talking about? Like I'm having to defend
I
myself
mean,
from being a bandwagon fan.
I mean, I gotta rep Texas Rangers. Admittedly, I haven't really
Hey,
been watching.
congratulations!
Haven't been watching a lot of MLB for a while, but I'm very glad the Rangers won. Yeah, we finally
Yeah,
got one.
congrats. That's good. Yeah,
But
that's good.
yeah, yeah. Back to Game of Thrones real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I've those first couple of seasons are really good, and the books are really good, and I really don't know where they went wrong with it. Well, I have a couple of ideas where they went wrong with the show, but I digress.
So it's
Um,
interesting. I love season 6 more than most people,
I liked it a
and
lot. I think Battle of the Bastards is one of the best episodes of the series.
that was a Sapochnik deal, I'm pretty sure. And in the very last episode, Wins a Winner, is my favorite episode of television ever. So I like the opening music and everything about that whole episode I think it's perfection. And then they really took a dump with season 7 and 8. I don't know if they got lazy or what happened, but it just was never the same again. So
Yeah, it was an experience that I would rather not live through again. But I probably will because God, it's hard ending things. Uh,
no, that's fair. What is ridiculous though is that HBO would have allowed them to go as many seasons as they needed. Like HBO was begging them, let's do more episodes, let's do more seasons. They're like, nah, we're out. So, but
that explains a lot.
Dan and Dave had to do this streamlining deal, and that's why someone would be in Dorne one day and at King's Landing the next day, and you're like, what, what
How?
happened here? Like none of this makes any sense. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's why I read the first law. I was kind of trying to get that hangover of Game of Thrones over, and I did, and it was a good
hmm
experience. I enjoy
yeah, for
for.
sure.
I'm glad I found the first law when I did. I'm glad I waited till when I did to, get that moving. So
Yeah,
yeah. But aside from that, I think that is all I'll do for today because I don't want to keep you for too long. Scott, thank you so much for your patience during
yeah, man.
the like weird stuff that was going on, and I'm glad we managed to. I'm glad we managed to get this going.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. I
um,
really enjoyed the discussion.
if you wanna, discuss any social media, feel free. You
Okay.
can do it now.
Discuss social media. What do you mean?
No, I mean just like shill your social media, like if you want to promote
Oh no, I'm
yourself.
sorry. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you can find me on Bald Booktuber. That's my YouTube channel that I don't post anything on anymore. Uh, I think I'm also at Bald Booktuber on X, but mostly you can find me on Mike's Discord, where I'm also Bald Booktuber. So not too hard to find. If you ever want to play me in a game of chess, you can find me on chess.com at GlassCow79. That's GLASSCOW 79. Um, yeah, I don't do a ton of social media, but you can find me in those places.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Scott, for taking the time out of your day. And, well, that is all we got for today. So take care, everyone.
Sounds good, man. Take her easy.